Welcome back to Fair Fade Investing. Today we're taking a look at Arista Networks, ticker symbol ANET. This is a company that works closely with Microsoft as well as Meta, involved in their data services. First, we're going to start with some of the fundamentals of the business, and then we're going to jump into a hypothetical framework to see where the stock could be headed from here. We have price per share of $287, a price to earnings ratio of 43, a market cap of 89 billion, and an enterprise value of 85 billion. In the financial strength, we see that their cash to debt ratio is extremely high, with 104 times their debt in cash. So for every dollar of debt, they have $100 of cash. Looking at their margins, we see gross margin, operating, net, and free cash flow all above 30. And versus the industry, we see solid green bars, so some of the best margins in the industry. Versus history, their gross margin is currently slightly above their minimum for the last 10 years. So some deceleration for gross margins, although the net and operating margin are the highest they've had in the last 10 years. For free cash flow, they're sitting slightly below their maximum for the last 10 years, but high amounts of free cash flow, high amounts of gross margin. I use these margins to tell me some insight about the business, but for management strength, I use ROE, ROA, ROIC, and ROC. And for these as well, we see that versus the industry, the management is performing exceptionally well. Looking at their price to earnings, we see a current of 43.8, a median of 40, and a minimum of 15. So right about their median for the last 10 years. They have a trailing 12-month revenue of $5.8 billion versus that market cap of $89 billion. So trading for roughly 15 times their trailing 12-month revenues. When we look at their financials on a trailing 12-month period, we do see that revenue and net income are growing. We see that their cash debt is growing as well. Actually, no debt in the last trailing 12 months. We see share sales here, and then buybacks, and then more sales. But to get further insight, let's run a DCF and see where it could be headed from here. Arista Networks, ticker symbol ANET. What's it worth? Where could it be headed from here? To do this, we're going to use a DCF. First, we're going to start with earnings per share, and then we'll move into free cash flow. We have data for both on the 10-year, 5-year, and 3-year annual rate per share. So their 10-year average for earnings per share was 41.9, and their 5-year was 25.6, and their 3-year is 51.7. So seeing what's currently priced in for earnings per share. Currently for earnings per share, there's 29% growth priced in for the next 10 years. Fairly optimistic, although over the last 10 years they've achieved 40. If they do what they have for the next 10, based on what they have for the last, then we could see a fair value closer to 620, whereas currently we're at 287. And if they were to slow down to 29 or closer to that 5-year average for the next 10, then we could see a fair value closer to 231. Basing it on free cash flow, we see that their 10-year annual return was 38.8, their 5-year was 16.5, and their 3-year average was 40.7. So some strong free cash flow. Seeing what's currently priced in. Currently there's about 26% growth priced in for free cash flow for the next 10 years. If we believe that they can grow closer to their 10-year or even their 3-year average, then you could see a higher fair value. And anything below what's currently priced in of 26 would result in a downside. So it all truly depends on whether Meta or Microsoft demands more of their product or service. This company is tied closely to those two businesses for its services. So depending how they perform in the future, this company could perform alongside it. 30% growth for the next 10 years is a fairly strong amount of growth, but I think it could be reasonable and this business could be around its fair value. Although 30% growth is a strong estimate for 10 years. But that being said, this is my analysis of ANET stock. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe. If you have any questions, leave a comment. If you think this stock's going to be headed up, down, sideways for the next 10 years, let me know down below, and I'll see you next time.